Hi everybody, welcome back to my YouTube channel, One Book or Novel at a Time. Thank you for tuning in, and I will continue to read to you the series Goosebumps Most Wanted, Book 1, Planet of the Lost Gnomes, and I will continue where we left off. Chapter 26. I saw a tiny slice of a moon in the sky, but it kept disappearing behind wisps of cloud. There was no breeze at all. The air was still. The trees in the front yard didn't move. I stepped onto the porch and peered both ways. I expected to find lawn gnomes somewhere beside me, but no. The porch swing stood in pale light from the street lamp. The canvas chairs beside it were empty. No gnomes in sight. I jumped down onto the grass. My parents' bedroom light still glowed. They were awake. I could see their shadows on the window shade. I had to be quiet. I tiptoed down the middle of the yard. Dad's car was parked in the driveway. In the darkness, it reminded me of a large animal about to pounce. Okay, yes, I was a little freaked. I mean, I don't have nerves of steel. I'm not a total coward like Kayla. But being out here late at night, when I knew it was against the rules, well, it made my imagination go a little wild. I turned away from it and gazed toward the street. There were no lawn gnomes in my front yard. I didn't see any at the curb. I felt a chill at the back of my neck. The air was so still, as if everything had frozen in place. I was the only thing moving, the only person out here. No cars moving on the street. No animal sounds or doors slamming our garage doors. Rumbling or footsteps or voices or birds chirping or crickets or anything. Freaky, right? I reached the curb and gazed into McClatch's front yard. His house was pitch black. Not a light on anywhere. In the deep silence, my footsteps sounded deafening as I crossed the street and stepped onto McClatch's driveway. I turned and peered down the long, tall hedge. McClatch's two lawn gnomes usually stood together at the back of the hedge. But no, the hedge rose up like a black wall. I squinted hard and saw only darkness. I took a few cautious steps up McClatch's driveway. Again, I felt a chill at the back of my neck. My throat tightened and my legs felt wobbly as I made my way towards the house. Silence. The only sound was my rapid breathing. My eyes darted all around. I felt like a frightened rabbit. Every sense was alert. Where have all the lawn gnomes gone? It isn't really that late. Why isn't anyone else outside? I squinted hard at McClatch's front porch. I saw a stack of firewood logs piled at one end. A large axe leaned against the porch wall. A pair of tall black boots stood beside the door. Suddenly, I froze. My breath caught in my chest. A sound. I heard a sound. The crunch of leaves. The soft thud of a footstep. Then another. Every muscle in my body tightened. I forced myself to turn towards the sound. I still couldn't see them in the darkness, but I could hear them. The lawn gnomes. They were coming for me. Are they coming after Jay? That is the end of chapter 26. Chapter 27. The tiny moon slid out from behind the clouds. Pale light washed over the lawn. The scrape of rapid footsteps grew louder. I held my breath and stared at a family of raccoons making their way across the grass. They kept their heads low. Their dark wrench eyes stared straight ahead. There were 5 or 6 of them, walking rapidly in a straight line. I couldn't help it. A laugh burst from my throat. Ha 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 ha! I'd been so frightened. I was shaking, and all because of a family of raccoons. The lawn gnomes had vanished, disappeared. Where had they gone? I didn't care. It was perfectly safe out here. What were people afraid of? Raccoons? An idea popped into my head. I decided to go to Elliot's house. I'll drag Elliot outside with me. I'll show him there's nothing to be afraid of. I trotted down to the street and turned away from McClatch's yard. I remember the houses looked a lot alike on Elliot's block, but I was pretty sure I remembered his. Third house from the corner. I jogged along the side of the street. I gazed into every yard I passed. No lawn gnomes anywhere. I had seen at least 2 or 3 in front of every house, but now they had all vanished. Weird, but so what? It took me only a few minutes to reach Elliot's block. I heard a cat crying through an open window. Another house had the TV turned on really loud. It was a block of small square houses. I peered down the street. No one outside. Nothing moving. I trotted up to the third house from the corner. I saw Elliot's bike leaning against one wall, and I saw Elliot through the front window. He was sitting at a table with a laptop glowing in front of him. I could see on the screen that he was playing a game. I stepped up to the house and tapped on the window. He didn't hear me. He didn't turn around. I tapped harder on the glass. Then I shouted, "Hey, Elliot, it's me!" He finally turned around. His eyes bulged with surprise. He came up close to the window and peered out at me for a long time. Like he was seeing a ghost or something. I waved for him to come to the front door, and I could see the fear in his eyes. A few seconds later, he pulled the front door open just a crack. "Jay, what are you doing out there?" "Having fun," I said. "Come on out." He peeked out at me through the crack. I could only see one eye. "Go home," he whispered. "Are you crazy? You shouldn't be out there." "Come on, Elliot," I said. "I swear there's nothing to be afraid of." "It's not allowed," he insisted. "Everyone knows it's not allowed." "Everyone is wrong," I said. I pushed the front door open wider and grabbed his arm. "Come on out. It's an awesome night. Come on, try it." "I don't think so," he said. He pulled back. "Maybe some other time, but I have to ask my parents. I wrapped my fingers around his wrist and tugged him out onto the front walk. His eyes bulged again, and he gazed all around. "See? Perfectly safe," I said. This is a big mistake," he stammered. "No way," I said. "Let's take a walk. It's so totally cool. We're the only ones out here. It's like it's our own private world." He swallowed hard. "I don't like this," he said. His eyes darted from side to side. I pulled him to the street. "What's that sound?" he cried. "It's a cat," I told him. "Inside the house on the corner." I started to walk, waving for him to follow me. "Come on, dude. A short walk. Calm down. Really? We're the only ones out here. See?" He held back. "But Jay, you know the rules. You know what?" I kept walking. I knew he'd follow me. "Hey, wait up," he called. He came scrambling after me. Isn't this awesome? I said. We crossed the street and turned onto the next block. Isn't this totally awesome? Our own world. He poked me in the ribs. Hey, I spun around. Why'd you do that? His chin trembled. His eyes were wide again. He pointed. Jay! I don't think we're alone. And that is the end of chapter 27. So what do you think poked Jay? A gnome? Chapter 28. Gazing into the dark, I heard the thunder of footsteps. The lawn gnomes seemed to appear from all directions. How many were there? 50? 100? An army of lawn gnomes? They moved quickly. Their little boots pounded the pavement. Their tall caps bobbed and tilted under the pale moonlight. Their faces were shadowy and grim. Eyes narrowed on Elliot and me. We had no time to move. They surrounded us, forming a tight circle. I gazed from one unfriendly bearded face to the next. They were a foot shorter than Elliot and me, but there was no way we could fight them. They closed in tightly, bumping their hard chests against us, pushing until we were squeezed together. They still hadn't spoken or made a sound. They crushed around us, squeezing us in the middle of their tight circle. Malfunction, one of them said finally, in a squeaky cartoon voice. Malfunction! He was staring at me as he said it. What do you want? I shouted. Go away! We haven't done anything to you. Elliot put a hand on my shoulder. Careful, he whispered. Don't get them angry. Angry? I cried. I'm the one who's angry. Shh, Elliot warned. I told you, we're not allowed out here. Go away, I screamed at them. Leave us alone. I placed my hands on the shoulders of the gnome in front of me and tried to push him out of my way. I guess that was a mistake because the gnomes all uttered angry cries at once. It sounded like dogs giving a warning bark. And then the little guy shoved my hands off. He grabbed me by the waist, squeezed me hard in an iron grip, and hoisted me off the ground. Wow! I let out a startled cry. The gnome was incredibly strong. I tried to squirm and spin out of his hands. That only made him squeeze my waist tighter. I tried to hit him. My hands grabbed nothing but air. I couldn't escape. Other gnomes reached for me. They held me high above their heads. And then I saw Elliot lifted off his feet. He didn't put up too much of a struggle. I guess he was too frightened. A few seconds later, the gnomes began to move. Elliot and I were helpless, bumping along, held high over their pointed hats. I twisted and screamed and squirmed and trashed my arms. The army of gnomes bunched together like a herd of cattle, moving in a straight line down the street with Elliot and me on our backs, prisoners. Let us down, I screamed. I was so frightened, my voice came out in a high squeak. They moved quickly, their boots thudding the pavement as they carried us along the dark, empty street. Their stone-hard fingers dug into my sides, into my back. Let us go, I wailed. Where are you taking us? What are you going to do? What has Jay got into now? That is the end of chapter 28. Wow, it's getting super intense, right? What has Jay gotten himself into now? He shouldn't have gone outside, but oh well. Adventures of Jay and Goosebumps Most Wanted, Planet of the Lawn Gnomes, Book 1. Thank you so much for tuning in to my YouTube channel, One Book or Novel at a Time. I hope to see you on the next video, or you see me on the next video. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. You're awesome. Don't forget to pick up a book and read. Have an awesome day.